Hi and welcome everyone. This is the SIG Cluster Lifecycle meeting specialized on kubeadm implementation, especially upgrades and AJ clusters, and a bit of self-hosting as well. And today we have the 15th of November. First up on the agenda is Xiang and about testing AJ cluster stack.
Is Xiang here?
I don't see him, but I just pinged him.
Maybe we could do it at the end. Just reshuffle the order.
Yeah, we'll do that. Let's dive into checkpointing implementation then.
All right, so I just wanted to give an update, and I sent you a message on Slack too, is that the default self-hosted config that we use, or pod spec, it isn't going to work. We're using secrets and a couple of other things, so we can't checkpoint it. We also need to update to remove AutoMod service token, account token for the API server, because anything that AutoMod service account token is basically another secret mount into the API server, which we don't need. And we don't have checkpointing for secrets, so it's like this weird circle where like I need the API server to get my secret, but my secret is in my API server, and so we don't need that, and we should remove that.
Using secrets for self-hosting is opt-in right now, so we actually don't have it in the pod spec unless you enable a feature gate.
I enabled the self-hosting feature gate by default. It was on. So I was testing I have to verify which version of kubeadm I was testing, but it was either last revision or latest master. So I'll double check.
Okay, yeah. That's not expected, at least. I thought I engineered it like if you enable both feature gates, then you get self-hosting with secrets. And if
I'll take a
self-hosting, well, at least that's the expected behavior. If that's not the case, which might be, we should fix it.
Yeah, I'll go and take a look today. Well, maybe tomorrow at this point.
The backlog keeps growing, right?
I'm trying to burn the backlog today as much as I can. So.
Okay, cool. I see Xang joined here. Do you want to talk about testing AJ classes?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So I think the HA cluster testing really have two parts. The first part is like we are testing that we can set up a HA cluster, like the initial installation is finished, like the HA cluster is working, right? You have multiple APIs, so you have multiple SAD, maybe you have multiple like scheduler and control manager. And the second part is like testing the actual HA functionality is working, which means that if you partially kill some API servers, partially kill some SAD servers, or like partially kill some schedulers, from the client perspective, the cluster is still up and running, right? I'm not sure, like my documentation is more focused on the second part, like testing the HA functionality is not like actually testing the like HA setup or HA installation. To test the HA like failure injection, we need to have HA set up. So that's why, like, I think maybe some kubeadm people are really interested in that, because like to test that, we need to set up a HA cluster first. And for the second part, I think right now we have some end-to-end tests to cover some like failure injection, but those tests are very basic. So I wrote a doc to just describe where I want this effort to go and what we should do. For example, like we should inject failures between SAD peers, like kill one SAD nodes while like still keeping the other two running, or like we should inject some network partitions between SAD node, and also we should test the interaction between API server and SAD. We can inject network failures between the API server and SAD, and also like we can test the API server itself, right? Like say we have 3 API server, we can kill one API server to see whether the Kubernetes client can switch from one field API server to another API server, or like we can overload one API server to see whether the client can switch to the underload one. I think there are some interesting things that we can do there, and I think it will be a joint effort from the API machinery and the cluster lifecycle.
I honestly don't think API machinery is going to do much on this front, other than maybe update the client backend. But they probably will not add the tests. If anything, we'll probably be the ones adding most of the tests.
Where are these tests going to live? Are they going to be in the main Kubernetes repo? Is that the intention, or?
Yeah, the intention is like make all the tests inside Kubernetes main repo, because right now at CoreOS we have some like HA testing. At Red Hat, I believe they have some HA testing. At Google, they have some HA testing, and none of the tests is actually in the upstream repo.
I think we can bracket it with feature HA, and then we can enable that as part of our test runs for kubeadm once we have a deployment configuration that defaults to that setup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally agree there.
So in terms of invoking the tests, would the end-to-end tests use kubeadm to deploy a HA etcd, and then you'd run all of those tests, right? So it's contingent on HA etcd being in kubeadm, or do you want like a stopgap measure to get this in now and then switch over to kubeadm when we have it?
There is no stopgap for deployments in the testing infrastructure. To do that is a ridiculous amount of extra work and gives you a bad signal, which then the testing folks come and hunt you down. So it's not worth the effort to do that. It's much more prudent to put the effort into setting up the full jig to do what you want than having it as a feature blocking PR job, which that way, you know, it's both good and bad. The good part is that we're actually testing it. The bad part is, you know, the eyes of thousands of people will now be upon this part. So.
Yeah, so just to touch on something that Tim said, Xiang, who do you think is going to write these tests? Is it something that CoreOS can dedicate resources to, or is this just like a design proposal and hopefully someone can pick it up if they have spare cycles?
Okay, so right now is a design proposal, and someone like what Jack from Google, he is interested, but he's on vacation right now, so I haven't speak with him. I know like some Red Hat folks may be interested in this effort. So right now it's just a proposal, but if everybody agrees on a concrete plan, like CoreOS can, we can have some people working on that, and maybe some Googlers can help, and also Red Hat can help, right?
That sounds really good to me.
But I think we need, like, I think the current blocker is like, we need to have a way to set up the HA cluster, right? And then like, we have a framework to inject those failures, and then we can start write the test. Without the, like, the former stuff, we can do nothing except just having a proposal.
Right. I think that dovetails into like my status update too. So the thing I'm currently working on is trying to get kubeadm to deploy HA etcd clusters using the operator. We ran into a blocker because the operator assumes that there's a working DNS server, which kubeadm doesn't do. So I'm working with Hongqiao to try and fix that.
Yeah, that's another thing that I'm a little bit concerned about, because actually, if you set up etcd with etcd operator, it makes the story a little bit more complicated, because then you have the like secure dependencies between etcd server and Kubernetes, and you need to test more. So I think a better like initial approach is that like having a separate etcd cluster and the Kubernetes clusters, they like decouple with each other, and then we try to test set up, and then like after we can pass all these, and we can do more like testing, because I believe the problem here is not like most of the problem here we will find initially is not really about how we set up Kubernetes, but it's more about like the internal implementation of Kubernetes, how it uses etcd client, or how the Kubernetes client interact with the Kubernetes API server. So I'd rather have a very simple like HA setup first, and then we can just go from there. Because like using the etcd operator actually make the like setup more complicated, but I'm not sure. If you think that it's doable, like we can try that too. but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, so this has been like a discussion item this dev cycle in terms of like how we are going to set up etcd HA, and we sort of came to the decision that we can try and implement a deployment mechanism to set up HA ourselves, or we can try and use what's currently out there and save ourselves a lot of strife and work by just using the operator. And so far, it does look as if it's feasible, it can work. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's we're not going to really realize all the edge cases until we start hammering it with end-to-end tests, right? So yeah, so I'm interested into sort of figuring out what these cyclic dependencies are and trying to figure out how they complicate our tests. Maybe I'm just trying to think of a good next step there. I mean, maybe just carry on implementing it and then try and run some initial tests to see how complicated it is. Does that make sense?
If someone wants to like dedicate some effort on the self-hosted SAD side, that will be good, because my worry is like self-hosted SAD may introduce some other failures and nobody's going to look into that and nobody's going to fix SAD operator, and then there will be a problem. Because SAD operator is another component that may have issues. And if you think that you're like actively fixing the issues that we find, that will be awesome.
Yeah, so I've been spending some time on it recently, so I can probably dedicate some time towards that component. I'm just trying to think that, so by the time that HA etcd has been set up and then we begin testing it, at what level will the operator try and intervene and potentially like screw up etcd after it's deployed, right? I mean, I thought that it just sort of, I mean, it just adds members, right, based on initial spec. So
what we have seen there is like, give you an example, right? So say like a node cannot actually contact the kubelet cannot contact the API server, but the SAD, underlying SAD is still running, right? If it's a non-self-hosted SAD, like everything will just keep on running. But if that is under the control of kubelet, when the kubelet connect the API server again, API server may already decide to like join all the ports on that node because the node didn't really connect to the API server for maybe more than 5 minutes, right? There will be a difference there. If this is not like self-hosted SAD, nothing will happen because SAD is still happily running, right? But this time, like when the node reconnect to Kubernetes will decide to kill that SAD port. It's not really about like SAD operator, but it's about like running SAD under systemd is different than like running it under like kubelet, because sometimes kubelet will decide to kill SAD, right? When it decides to kill SAD, it's actually kill itself.
Right. So you're saying like in situations where the kubelet can't connect to the API server, it will evict the etcd pod and then potentially lose quorum, right?
Yeah, it's kill itself, and then like you need actual work there. One thing to solve that is to okay.
Yeah, we're kind of going in a rabbit hole here. I think we can start the iteration in the process. There are other aspects that we can dive into with regards to the A/B comparison of self-hosted versus not. And we will support both with kubeadm, but kubeadm can't deploy the non-self-hosted version, at least not at this stage, right? And we don't even want to support that because then we have to own the life cycle of it, which is different than deploying the operator. That's the reason why we chose the operator. But what we can do is we can absolutely facilitate the tests and create and get those rolling with the deployment that we create. And at this point, it'll be alpha grade, and we probably won't even get to it until 110. So I think what probably makes a lot of sense now is to maybe create a tracking issue that we can reference over time, which basically has like a bulleted list of all the items that we need to address, and then revisit that during the 110 planning cycle for us to start to take a look at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Hi, actually, we have a list of things that we know about. We know the difference between self-hosted SAD and non-self-hosted SAD, and we already like dig into some of the issues, right? But we just like don't have time to like continue to fix them one by one. So I think as Tim said, we can just make it alpha and then iterate on that, and we probably can help with a list of things that we can track.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we have global visibility, we can use the SIG as a means to federate and to have other people get involved in specific issues. I think doing that is much more beneficial and has proven over time that it works, so long as we constantly do that, where we write down the details and then we send an email to the list saying, hey, we have this thing, but we don't have enough eyes on it. Hey, if you can contribute, here's an area of focus that we could use some help on.
Okay, I agree with that.
So basically, the conclusion is to use kubeadm, the kubeadm AJ mode as a testing playground that is reproducible in ED tests easily for like the whole Kubernetes ecosystem. For example, in scalability tests, where we could test like 5 masters or something like that, and inject failures pretty easily by like killing or tainting masters or master pods, or like doing some disruptive workloads easily, still via the Kubernetes API, right? So that the disruption framework would use the Kubernetes API, then it would be kind of portable between different environments. I think one of the problems we have today is basically that you have to, well, if you set up an AJ etcd cluster, you're directly tied into your environment. So if we write a disruption framework for AWS, then it doesn't work on GC. Or actually, maybe it's the other way around. You have something for GC already, Robert? Or
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We actually already have some of these things built inside CoreOS because we run self-hosted environments, right? So we actually have a framework that can inject failures into the API server and Kubernetes pod.
Exactly. The self-hosting.
All of these things built.
The self-hosting provides a capability for doing platform agnostic fault testing that we wouldn't have otherwise, because we have the full API at our disposal. So as part of the framework that already exists there, we could do split tests and failure tests that we couldn't do otherwise. Not without digging into like knowing the details of a platform, like if a node were to die, so to speak, right? So I think the action item here, if we want to record action items, is to open a parent issue to get a breakdown of all the items that we want to address. Gian, do you think you could start a parent issue?
Yeah, I can start. I can start it.
Can you, so you said that CoreOS already has like a sort of small list about potential issues. Could you maybe include some of the things?
Yeah, I will write a summary about the conversations that we have today, and probably we can go from there.
Okay, thanks.
I think that's all I have today.
so, what about the GC or GKE AJ tests today? What do they test, and how is it working?
So Philip pointed to a simple open source test that he'd added in the doc, and I don't know exactly what Vortecan folks have implemented internally in terms of testing, because I've been blissfully ignoring that, and none of them were available, unfortunately, to join the call today, so we don't have any firsthand context there. Sorry.
On another note, how far away is the the cluster API effort of having something shippable for GKE or GCE?
Shippable is interesting. It depends on how you define shippable. Right?
Well, testable, usable for E2E tests.
That's a good question. I don't know that we're that far. I mean, we've got something now. I was playing with it last night. That's sort of demo quality. Like I can create and delete clusters. So like that's maybe close, depending on how reliable we think it is.
Yeah, I would love to use that instead of Kubernetes Anywhere. If we start like expanding the tests, I looked at what we have, and well, it works. But I would really like to just do some kind of like in-kube deploy or wherever, somewhere where we could start writing the new upgrade tests, the new AJ tests.
Yeah, that's a good point. I should put that on our near-term roadmap of, as once we've got sort of the demo quality stuff finished, is to pivot and make it EDE quality, basically, right? Like good enough to start writing EDE tests on top of.
Yeah, exactly. That will help a lot, I think, from our side as well. Cool. Then, Jamie, did you have something?
No, I think we already covered it.
Yeah, but basically, so to go through the proposals, I mean, I don't think we covered what you're planning to do with pod IPs. Do we want to have a specific self-hosted etcd flagged in the API or something to make it use pod IPs instead of host names? Or what?
So what you mean? How does, so basically if the operator detects that the etcd cluster is going to be self-hosted, and I think it determines that by the spec that you give it. So if you give it a spec object and it has the self-hosted struct embedded in it, it says, hey, this is self-hosted. At this point onwards, every time I add a new etcd pods, use pod IPs. So it's not going to use host names if it has that struct embedded in the spec. That's in review right now. It's quite small pull request, so hopefully it should get merged maybe this week. And then the second part is to create a new sort of controller, auto approval controller for CSRs, which I submitted today. So basically when the operator launches a new etcd pod, it has an init container in it, inside the pod that sends a CSR, and the operator has sort of a sidecar which auto approves if the CSR looks a specific way. So if it matches like an organization field that says etcd cluster or something like that, and it can match the service name of the pod of the pod sending the CSR, it will auto approve it. So at that point, the TLS generation can happen. So it looks as if it's pretty workable, and all of the TLS generation is going to go through the CSR mechanism in the API server instead of us generating it ourselves, if that makes sense.
It does. So the auto approval controller, is that going to be built into the operator?
Yeah, it's going to be a sidecar in the operator pod. I think this is all pending. This was my assumption about how it would work. If Hongqiao has a completely different idea, then we might have to change it. But my assumption would be that it's a container that runs as a sidecar in the operator pod, and it listens out for CSRs that match a pattern.
I was just thinking, could it be done as a separate Go routine as well?
I guess it could. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion either way. I just thought it'd be nice to have that sort of separation in terms of, also because like the build artifacts would be separate. So I don't know. Maybe there's a case to be said for isolating it into a separate binary. I'm really not sure. I have no strong opinion.
What do you think, Xiang?
I'm not sure. I haven't followed up this, but I just know that we are doing the CSR thing.
Okay.
I need to look at the request. I have pretty busy.
Yeah, I sent a pull request like an hour or two ago. So yeah, check it out. It'll be great to have more eyes on it.
Okay, I'll give it a look.
Cool.
I mean, it is definitely possible to have it in a Go routine. I think that's how the inbuilt controller works in Controller Manager. Like it just runs as a Go routine. So yeah, it's possible.
Just like at the first glance, I think it would make sense to have both a Go routine and a separate binary. Like create the library inside of the operator, and have a binary as well as run it in the etcd operator, just so we don't raise the bar significantly in terms of runtime requirements. I mean, AJ is obviously gonna raise the bar a lot compared to like a single master, but just to keep it somewhat reasonable, I don't know.
Yeah, I think what Hongchao will worry about is like adding complexity to the core SAD operator, right? So, but if it's possible to run the thing as a separate binary and as a routine, I will assume that this module will be like decoupled from the core SAD operator pretty much all of it, right? So I guess it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, so also like running it as a sidecar allows the user that choice, right? So, if they do expect to be using self-hosted SED clusters, then they will have to provide that sidecar in the pod spec, right?
Yeah.
So
that's a fair point. Yeah. Okay, let's take the rest of the discussion offline, but it was good to cover it briefly here. Let's see. It's gonna. Yeah, so we now have kubelet dynamic configuration PR up, work in progress, which I'll link to here. There we go. Basically, we don't know yet if dynamic kubelet configuration is going to make beta in 1.9. It's a significant effort behind it, but it's going to be tight at least. What's going to move to beta most probably is the kubelet API configuration, though. So that's good, and possibly the loading from a file of the kubelet. So we might be able to, so right now we couple the kubeadm deb, right? Contains a drop-in for the kubelet, which is kind of insane because if you do apt-get install kubeadm, you're gonna get a newer, and you upgrade a minor version using that, you're gonna get a newer kubelet. How should we put it? A newer kubelet flags, and that's most probably not going to work. So we work around that right now in our docs. But the long-term plan here is to make kubeadm init write a file with the kubelet args, and then this way the file will be persistent between all the minor versions, and kubeadm init will just write different arguments to the kubelet to use, and then pivot to dynamic configuration once up. Yeah, but that's a short status update. We have Peter Tsao working on that one, which is great to see. I'm gonna take a look at it really soon. Then we also have another interesting PR. Let me see. Adding etcd upgrade option to kubeadm upgrade from Sergey, who might be here. Well, so while I have you here, Xiang, do you know what capabilities the built-in etcd client has in Go? Can we easily? Is there any way to easily health check and do like some kind of easy curl command against it?
I think you can, like, do you want to use a Go client or you want to use a command line?
So the Go client. So kubeadm basically would do some kind of sane health check before and after. And what is the way to have the most coverage here, like that it actually is working?
Yeah, so I think you can just simply do a pull request or like do a create a list request. Like we can add something there, or we can give you an example if you want.
So is there anything already that?
Yeah, there's something already, and we already use it. So probably just pin me on the GitHub issue or GitHub thread, so I will show you something.
Cool. There we go. I pasted it in the meeting notes. Could paste it in the chat as well. There. So that is another important PR. What else do we have that has to make 1.9? Let me see. Yeah, then we have proxy component configuration, and one from Danian was presenting at the SIG Cluster Lifecycle meeting 1 week ago about IPv6 support. For that team, it's important to get component configuration to the proxy in sooner rather than later. And I'm guiding a guy there to how to implement that. It's going to be fairly simple, like a kubeproxy config map, and with, well, the configuration in it, and just bind mounted, config map mounted into the pod. So nothing more fancy than that, but it's going to be useful for IPv6 support later. And I'm kind of tracking the 1.9 items we need to finish here in this 1.9 milestone in the kubeadm repo. Please check it out and validate what seems reasonable and what doesn't. Right now, we have about 30 items to finish. Some of them more important than others. Of course, like some of them are testing, some of them are going to be closed as we merge PRs, and some of them are going to be moved out to the next milestone. So, do we have Fabrizio here, by the way? Doesn't look so. Anyway, I think the man page generation is going kind of well. We're going to get very improved docs for the next release. Thanks to his work, I recently reviewed and approved a PR to the generate kube docs or something command that we have. And that's important. But I don't know if there's anything more. Yeah.
Yes, one thing on that
yeah.
list you just sent. There are quite a few open issues, 37 open issues. At some point, we should triage those down and, like you said, actually kick things out to the next milestone that aren't going to make it. So we have a more concise and actionable burn down list. There are quite a few of these that aren't assigned, for instance, which makes it really unlikely they're going to be done by the code freeze next week.
Yeah, I'm going to do so tomorrow.
Excellent.
But it would be great to have more eyes as well.
And then I stuck another thing on here that Jamie had mentioned yesterday during the SIG meeting, which is to go back and review the 1.9 planning doc for our sort of P1, and I guess also the P0 goals, and see where we're on track, where we're not on track, what things we should just sort of cut bait now to focus on getting a couple of them actually done.
Yeah, soon-ish we have to decide whether we're going to enable self-hosting or not by default. It's kind of scary at the same time because it's a huge change. But we'll see.
We need to get some other PRs merged and get the testing cycle started now. That was kind of my goal to get it, because we're going to have to update packages and stuff too for default configurations. So if we get the features merged now, we can start the testing cycle now, because I'm sure even after we get this thing pieces merged, we're going to have a bunch of issues that we're going to find once we start testing it. And then once we release it in the wild, then all the real bugs will come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, one option is obviously to make it beta as well, but not the default still. I mean, this cycle has been, unbelievably short. It feels like 1.8 went out yesterday. Still, so we'll see that in an upcoming meeting, I guess.
By the way, I've been kind of curious about this. This brings up a meta topic, which I don't know if other people think about this, but I think about it all the time. Is we do 4 release cycles a year. I sometimes think 3 would be better, just to give us longer dev cycles in between, so we can actually pack in and do. Because a lot of times it's a panic attack, right? At the end of every single dev cycle, it's a panic attack trying to get things in. Because like reviewers are busy and everybody's busy, you just need cycles to do things. As the project has matured, I don't necessarily know if we need 4 releases a year. That's just me, but that's a meta topic.
Are you gonna be you're gonna be at the contributor thing in Austin, right? I put that down as one of the things we should discuss.
Good.
Which apparently we're voting on later this week. Which things to actually discuss?
Oh, I see. Be discussed later.
So I'm looking at the planning. So another P1, which we haven't really talked about, is moving, or what we're going to do with the API. So it's currently on V1 Alpha 2 or something like that, or V1 Alpha 1. I'm not sure what it currently is, but Lucas, I know you wanted to maybe sort of solidify the API and make it a bit more stable. Do we have like a status update there?
I think, do we have known consumers besides KubeCorn? Is the cluster API?
Yeah, we do have known consumers, but so I'm not planning to do breaking changes. I'm not planning to do non-upgradable changes. That is, so the earlier version will be convertible via the API machinery to the newer. That's possible with the API machinery we have.
Based on the changes that we need to make, I guess what Tim is asking is, do we have enough people using it that we know we're meeting all the requirements? Or as soon as we promote it to beta, is someone going to come out of the woodwork and say, I need X, and we can't figure out how to support that in a backwards compatible way?
We do have consumers, but not enough, indeed. So if that answers your question.
Then what's the reason of promoting it? Like,
we're not going to promote it. It's going to stay in one alpha 1 this cycle at least. Probably.
That answers Jamie's question.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So basically, we need to wait for component config as well, because right now we have these string maps with flags, which serves the purpose for those using the config file right now, but it's kind of awkward with regards to a real API, right? So yeah, that's definitely going to take time. Maybe an Alpha 2, V1 Alpha 2 that is backwards compatible will come out 1.10, 1.11 when we have some component config things rolling in. And then gradually we'll also unify it with the control plane configuration API alongside the cluster API workgroup. That is kind of the goal as well. Do we have any status update on that, by the way, Robert? I saw Chris PR, but I haven't seen any activity recently.
Yeah, so I think both Chris and Jacob left their PRs open for comments, but also checked a version in so we could write code against it. So there's a version that's checked in that we are writing code against. And then the PRs are left open for comments. Last I talked to Chris, he was trying to basically cut as much as possible out of the API. Justin had mentioned it's a lot easier to add things later than it is to take things away. So we were trying to start with the sort of most minimalistic set possible because we know we're going to end up adding things down the road. And so we're trying to figure out what's the smallest set that can get us started at this point. So I think it's, as a result, it's probably a lot slimmer than what you'd expect and a lot smaller surface area than what kubeadm even has for the control plane configuration part.
Yeah, but it's going to grow.
It's going to grow,
time.
and that's why
Yeah.
I'm saying it's maybe actually not sufficient yet. So I think we're trying to figure out how small we can make it, but keep it sufficient, right?
Yeah. I'll write that down. Anything else, Jamie, from the doc that you see, if you have it in front of you?
No, I don't think so. I need to have like a closer look at it, but it seems like quite a lot of P1s at least have had work done on it. Maybe we don't have every single item, sub-item in it, but we've made good progress on each one, I think.
Yeah, I was going to go through and sort of annotate each of these things on sort of where we think we're at. I wasn't sure the best way to format that in the doc. I don't know if you have suggestions.
Comments, maybe? Like, yeah, like call out if something, if we don't know what the status is or it doesn't seem as if much progress has been made on it. I think comments are okay for that.
So said the config API is still going to be v1 alpha 1 in 1.9. Dependency on component config for graduate and beta. And we need more consumers. Even more. And lastly, unification in some form with the cluster control plane. It's going to happen. Then we have that written down. I'm not sure if we have other items to discuss at this point. I mean, Fabrizio is going to take a look at the temporary, like making kubelets address the master thing, if self-hosting the kube proxy even works. Is there anyone looking into the envoy thing, which we consider the longer term plan?
I'd love to look at that in 110. That absolutely is on my radar of something because we're all in on Envoy. So
yeah, that's definitely the best way long term. Then Jamie is working on the operator, etcd operator stuff, which is really cool. We have self-hosting pretty much okay. The component configuration PRs are in the works. We have etcd upgraded soonish with the linked PR, and testing AJ clusters is going to be a high priority for 110.
the only update I have from conversations with Jiyoung yesterday was that there may be a late breaking client update post code freeze to the etcd client. But the Jay Pivets is tracking backport fix. There's two problems. There's a client problem, then there's a server problem. and Kubernetes has a backport fix for some of the server issues that he's going to put into 3.1 dot something, and then the client fix or change might not land until after code freeze. So I don't exactly know how folks are going to react to all of this, but I do think it's high enough importance that we should be aware that it's coming, and also possibly be involved where we need to.
So to summarize, we're probably going to use 3.1.11 for the server in 1.9.
Gian, you want to comment there?
Yeah, I think we probably need to use a newer version of server, probably like 3.1.11, and we also want to use the latest version of the Go client, which is like in the 3.2 release. But actually, the client and server are two separate things. So I think that we probably need to separate it so that we can version it separately. But right now, it's like a little bit confusing.
Yeah, they're two separate PRs, but we have to address both issues.
Yes.
Okay, so is the etcd built-in client already 3.2 on master?
No, we're pending on a gRPC change, or they are pending on a gRPC change.
Well, the gRPC change is merged yesterday, so I think we
Is
just
gRPC released though?
yes, gRPC released yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can we do a client? I mean, have you tagged a release though?
We haven't, like the gRPC already tagged the release, so we are going to do it maybe late this week or early next week or something like that.
If you can do it late this week, I can squeak it in the client update, maybe Monday at best, right?
Yeah, the client is still, there's something still pending on the client. Anyway, I need to chat with Joe and Yuho from the ICT side to see whether we can get it done.
Okay. Last time I tried to do a client update, I had all kinds of race conditions, so.
Yeah, that's because of gRPC. I think gRPC already fixed that.
Okay, so on the second point, the summary is that an update to the etcd Go client from 3.1x to 3.2x with the gRPC bug fix is expected, maybe even after code freeze.
Yes, I'm more concerned about like the gRPC upgrades because I think there are other like Kubernetes components depends on gRPC, right? And when you upgrade gRPC, like there will be
you have to regen the whole kitchen soup. Every time there's a gRPC update, it hits everything. So I've gone through this process twice now. So
yeah, and gRPC breaks their API like pretty frequently.
So what gRPC version are we rendering in Kubernetes right now at head?
I think it's 1.4 or something. Because last time there's the issue in 1.2, I think I updated, like someone updated to 1.4 something. And now we need to update it to 1.7, I believe.
Oh, that's going to be tough. I see. Yeah, 1.7.2 is the latest release.
1.7.3, maybe 1.7.3 is the latest.
8 days ago. Then I guess 1.7.3 is expected to come out soon.
Yeah.
Okay. That's gonna be a tricky one.
Yeah, the 1.7.3 is 20 hours ago, like right yesterday. So
I don't know. I think not releasing. I think this is showstopper worthy. Like I want to make sure that we get folks on the horn at Google to understand that this issue is potentially catastrophic. So like you can't. I think we should hold up the train for this one. So I think it's worthy of that state.
Yeah, we need to talk to SIG release in clear wording about that, I guess, because it wasn't prioritized right after the bug was known right for some time, but not prioritized.
Yeah, bug was known for a long time. We we have been hitting that for quite a long time, but there's a workaround, like you just restart the API server and yeah. But like we haven't really figured out the root cause of all the issues. We know that like fixing the ICD client will fix part of the issues, but we haven't like tried to make sure that all the issues that we have seen are fixed, right? So this is an improvement. I don't know whether it will fix all the problems between like API server and ICD communication. That's why we need to have this HA testing, or like we are going to break it again.
So is there, I don't know how to convey this or who's going to go to the SIG release meeting.
I'm not sure I'm gonna make the meetings, but at least on Slack I can do some work. Do you know, Tim, if you're able to do that, to attend?
When is, I don't have it on my radar. Is it immediately after this, or is it some other time? I'll talk with George. He knows when it is.
And I'm checking what we have rendered right now. gRPC. Yeah, we have 1.3 rendered right now.
Okay, 1.3, yeah.
Yeah, and
over the behind.
Sorry, did you say something?
Oh, 4 manual versions behind, because right now like the gRPC is 1.7.3.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? Like, from IC side, we are trying to release a new like client late this week or early next week, and then like actually we can put some time to try to like upgrade Kubernetes gRPC and ICD clients maybe early next week. If it can pass all the end-to-end tests, then we don't need to worry a lot. But if it cannot pass, probably we need to go to the release team to talk about it.
Yeah, we need visibility in either case, but if you could help with bumping all the things, regenerating basically the whole repo and running ED tests, that would be awesome.
We can give it a try, but I'm not sure, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's all for today. Anything else in the last 5 minutes? Then we'll have 5 minutes back in our day. Cool. Bye, everyone, and thanks for this meeting.